Okay, today we're going to do a little river scene down here at the Sedelle, and we're going to do that with a few techniques. I was going to originally do acrylics over oils over acrylics. You can do that way around. You can't put acrylics over oils, okay? You can't put water-based over oil-based. So you can put oils over acrylics, not the other way around. I've primed these bits of board black for you ready, so we have a dark ground which will show through. Constable used to do this with brown, and he would do his paintings and leave the brown branches and trees behind instead of painting them in. So you're painting negatives, you're painting the light shapes and leaving the darks in this case, not painting the darks in. We can go back, it's very forgiving. And we're going to be using brushes, sponges and the knives, just to give you an idea of how we can use all three, or paint out. I've just been showing the students the most recent ones that I've been doing, that's these big ones. So, if you want to look upstairs in a minute, you can see what I'm doing upstairs at the moment. And they're almost completely with these sponge rollers, these little fellas here. Very handy, and it's amazing what you can do with them. There's only a little bit of brushwork, but almost everything is done with a roller like that. Obviously it's much better on a bigger canvas. So what we want to do is mix up some of these lights. We're going to work from our darkest to our lightest. Okay? So we're going to work from the deeper greens through to the very bright greens, and just finish up with these highlights with the knife. So all of these textures are going to be going on with the sponges, and then we'll finish off with a brush and the knife at the end. So what I want to be doing straight away is getting the feeling of the water here. And I'm going to start that actually with a brush, and it's a sort of muted browny green, so I'm going to literally I'm going to cheat today. I'm going to use it quite thinly, and I'm going to let the black glow through. So I'll take a little bit of the green and a little touch of the brown just to bring it down a bit. And I'm going to use it quite thinly. This is my river area here. Hang on tight, yes. Going down through here, the rocks and the water. And remember, we talked about painting the verticals first, painting the depth of the water and the reflections first with water. So I'm going to paint my strokes in little vertical strokes and letting the dark glow through, and then start to bring some of the horizontals across. And immediately you start to get the effect of water. So many people think they should go for painting straight across the water straight away, and you don't, okay? You do that afterwards, you do that way. Here we're coming into a bit darker, so I'm going to use the paint quite thinly, so we're using acrylics almost like watercolour to glaze down here as well. It's rather fun. Take a little bit of the warm, add that to the green, using it very thinly, you see. I don't want it thick at all. I can just, that's almost too thick, I just want it very, very thin, to glaze it right down into here, and leaving my dark rocks behind, into the verticals again. So I'm just glazing it in, so getting this lovely effect of the water reflecting in here. And then we'll come into a slight bit of blue. I'm going to do a little bit of the cobalt blue. I was talking about cobalt blue. I'm going to just bring a little bit of the blues into it. Again, doing it in the vertical and just feeling these little bits of water fall. So ever so simple. Now the lighter bits, let's go a fraction lighter with the brush. We'll take a little bit of the lemon yellow and add that to the green. Quite thinly, only little touches of it, so we don't need much paint today. And I'm going to just bring that across in little horizontal strokes, and just come into little vertical dabs here and there. And I've got the feeling of that water already. Don't need to do much. It's so simple this way, yeah? Right, having done that, I'm going to mix up some colour for the background. I want some of these deeper greens. So I'm going to leave that brown in there. I don't want to waste my brown. I'm going to take some green, put it in there, and a little bit of the blue, because I want a sort of bluey green, bit of turquoise into there I think at the moment. And I want to show you how the sponge roller works. I'm going to wet the sponge roller first, because if they're dry they take too much paint to get going. I'm just going to damp it down, and they do take quite a lot of paint, and I've got it quite thin at the moment. Let's just see what happens with that. If I just drag it across the surface, look at the texture I'm getting. Very fine leafy texture. The more paint I put on, the more texture I get. So let me just roll that across, and it's going to thin down because it's quite thin paint, it's going to thin out. But we're already getting a leafy texture in the background, and I want quite a fine texture in the background because I'm going to work the bigger leaves up on top. So I'll mix some more of that paint up. And this is exactly what I'm doing on these big paintings upstairs. I'm mixing in a much bigger palette, of course, but I'm mixing it up upstairs. Blue into it again. Get that onto my... I've got some plates here for you to mix on rather than this little palette here, so you've got more space than this. I want to do that wherever I see those deeper greens in the background there. Just giving a background palette. I just find it always amazing how quickly a picture comes together doing this way. Right up to the water there. I'm not even going in any special place, am I? I'm just covering the board, letting this background gradually glow. That's going to sink into the board, it's going to gradually disappear. So now I'm going to make it slightly lighter with the same. I'll take a little bit of the green again, a bit of yellow, a little bit of white. Not too much because I don't want to go too bright yet. I'll do that with my texturing in a moment. And we'll just go in there again and start to build up some slightly lighter areas of bushes. You can see that I'm just making the marks about these marks here. I'm not even trying to put them in the same places. I'm trying to keep the areas, lighter areas, where the lighter areas are going to be in a moment, but little bits of that coming down here. And that's it. So we've just seen how a sponge can be used. And you can see that texture going in the big paintings because where it's very, very fine, you can almost glaze over another colour with it. You can actually go in with this and go over another colour. It almost glazes across it. Look, I'll just put a little bit over here for fun, but you can see it just glazing across. So on the big ones I'm able to get this sort of glazed effect. It's not just my eyes after a few drinks. So that needs to be washed in a minute. Right, still mixing colours. Now I'm going to go on to my sponges. And we've got a thinner textured sponge and a heavier textured sponge. It is really worth choosing your sponges carefully because there's no good in just buying a bath sponge. It doesn't do it. Each sponge you see has totally different textures to it. So we'll start with the finer one because we're working finer already. And I'm going to make a much lighter yellow, much more white and yellow. It'll go even lighter than this in a minute. And then you go much brighter. You'll be surprised how quickly this picture will come together. Down there somewhere. And we've got to find now the textured surface. There's one there, there's one there. I think I'll go for this one. Don't push your sponge in too hard and don't press it on too hard. And remember that it makes a pattern. You don't want to make a pattern. You want to keep turning the sponge. So we're getting quite a fine texture of those leaves now. You want to turn the sponge constantly, trying to make these areas of light and leaves. And to leave that tree behind. I can come over it again in a minute, there's no worry. Go around that tree. So we don't have to paint with a brush, we can paint with our fingers. Oops, I shouldn't have got as light there. I'm going to take it off a bit with my finger. Let's go again, just dull it down because the lighter bits are up here and up through here. It's much duller down there, I just want a hint of it there, that's all. Right down to here. Then there's odd little bits. Now we can use a sponge not only to sponge directly like that, we can also drag the sponge slightly. So this area here, look, I can drag this sponge slightly to actually paint with it as I would with a brush. And then I can come out from that with the texturing. I can drag it through these little light bits here. Put some more on. I can drag it across these rocks here. This fine texturing just coming through here. This is very blue down here, which is what I wanted. Now I'm going to go lighter again, once more with this sponge, and I'm going to use a bigger one. Put some more white in. It's so quick. Got these very light areas. I want to get in behind. Just trying to go around the trees and leave them behind. Instant trees, instant painting. So as of next time you come, you'll be doing your own stuff, your own choices completely. And this was just to give you all these different techniques and things. Let's come through here, a little bit there. Now there's some very warm areas of leaves as well. It isn't just warm branches, there are some quite warm leaves in there as well. So I'm going to come back on those in just a moment. And with these areas here especially. But I'm going to do those with the slightly larger sponge now, so I'm going to go and wash these in a minute definitely. I'm going to make some of those warms now and then make the warm yellows. It's a pinky colour, so take a bit of white. When you're mixing, always start with your white first. Yeah? People think you can start with a colour and add white to it, you'll end up with a gallon. So start with your white and add your colour. In this case I've got a very, very light orange, so I'm going to just take it to that orange. Make it into there. A little bit of red, I think. do it into that. Very light orangey red, that's the colour I want. Mix those two together, there we go, I've got the choice. Take my slightly bigger sponge now, and we'll start looking at these lovely bits of light coming through here. And what you notice is this is very light. We could do with a few slightly redder ones, couldn't we? But look how the painting is now starting to come to life. Because we've worked from our cools in the background, I was using cool greens. I've been going through this before. I've used these cooler greens. This is the bluer greens, and then I've come through to the warmer ones, the yellowy ones. I can use that by dragging it again, or I can do it with a brush in a minute, but I'm going to do some of these rocks with a knife in a moment, so we'll try to do that. Right, a little bit warmer, so a bit more of the red into it, a little touch of alizarin crimson perhaps, not too much. Yeah, maybe a little more red, just a fraction darker. Big sponge again. And we'll get some of these warmer leaves in the foreground. So effective, so simple. Right, we've got that done. It's time now to go back to the brushes. So I'm going to put this little filbert down and grab myself a brush. This was a filbert, this flat rounded end one. It would do alright, but I'm going to use a roundy one now, one of these. And I need to put my darks back in, so I've got black here, but I want to use a very dark, rather than black, I want it to be a very, very dark colour, so I'm going to make a very sort of deep purple for these trees. And you can now, although you've left some behind, you can now go back in, and with the brush, you can start putting back in these trees. Remember, Leslie, thick to thin. That's he doing it, not thick to thin. But how this will sink in a moment, so it won't show as much as it is now. And we can use your very fine brushes, you can use whichever brushes you want, but this allows us now to bring in all these rocks and fine trees and things. I mean, we've already spent about 10 minutes so far, so it hasn't taken us long. And we can put these rocks in, but I'm going to use the knife for those as well. So, in here. That tree comes right the way through. Just get brush control, you push harder, the brush goes more heavily, you push lighter, the brush goes lighter. We want to bring some of these darks through this lighter background, that's what I'm trying to do at the moment with that. Dark against light, warm against cool, all the opposites going on. You can use a finer brush and go as fine as you want, that's up to you today. And having done that, we want to do the same with those warms, with the light shining, for instance, on here. And you could do this outdoors the same. You could have your palette of paints, and you could do exactly the same as long as you've got all the materials there when you're out of doors. Right, so we've used sponge rollers, we've used sponges and the brush, and finally I want to go on to using the knife. This would be much better if I was using oils because it would be thicker, but I'm going to use a little pointy knife for this job today. So now I'm going to try and use a bit of thicker paint, which I say is better with oils than the acrylics, but we'll see what we can do. And I want to start putting in these larger areas of water highlights. Let's start with this lovely light pink again that we've just been using. Mix it up with the tip of your knife, and a very slight touch of pink in there. We don't want to be using pure white yet. And let's see if we can start to make these rocks by just dragging it across. Look, dragging the tip of the knife over. In the way that that light bit of water comes down through here. You can use the knife on its surface to do a tacky, tack like that, to get textures, look. Or you can drag it like this to get the textures. So you've got several ways of doing it. That's going to get these little light bits of water coming down and through. Don't have too much paint on. You can always take it off again, you can scrape it like that and take it down. Now I want to make a cooler, a more blue colour there. I'm just using the sponge to wipe it off on it a minute. I want this sort of bluey green here, so I'm going to use a bit of white and turquoise. See if that does the job. I'll reach through my... Just a bit of this turquoise should do it. Probably too much there, but so we can see mix it up. That's quite nice. So my sunlight was the warm colour. Now this shaded sunlight coming through is going to be slightly cooler. Just dragging it through, look. You can always go back over things again afterwards, so you know, if I go over a tree I can come back and deal with that later, don't worry. But isn't it amazing? I think, you know, the picture just comes together so fast, doesn't it? It's a bit slick, it's a bit techniquey, but who cares if it works? You can drag it downwards to get the reflections again slightly if you want to. You can use your finger to take it off. You can, with a wet finger, you can do anything you like, but get those verticals, keep those verticals going. You can use a bit of finger again. I'm just going to use my finger here. So we've used all of these tools, including even fingers. Look, there's a bit more fingering there. Right the way through. Just drag it through here. Give me those effects. Coming up through the waterfall here. And some of those cools coming in. Now I can come to those rocks again. Let's come back to the rocks. And I'll make my black again for the rocks. We can start plastering those in at the sides here. Very small painting, but just right for a demonstration today. I'm going to put a little bit of warm with it, with the rocks. I'm going to take some alizarin crimson and put it with that black. I want a little bit more warmth into these rocks down here. See the difference it makes? It's gone from just being sooty to having more vibrance. Yeah, there's a little bit of red in it, makes such a difference. So these are where observation comes in from having done it before. You know that black isn't just black. There's where there's colour, where there's light, there's got to be colour. Take some more of that black, put some more of that deep alizarin crimson into it. Nice big rocks. I'm using the knife sideways on now to really plaster in these great big rocks here. Doesn't take us long. Plastering in nice big rocks. I'm going to finish with some pure white in a moment. You can see the warmer colours coming through there now. You can even use the knife to put a few more trees in if you want, and just use the edge of the knife to drag it. Look, if you drag the edge of the knife, you can do quite fine work. I'm not going to go into detail of how to paint with a knife, just give you an idea of what we can do. Right, finally, well, almost finally, I've got two more things to do. I've got a few leaves to do, and I've got the rest of the water to do. I'm going to make some brighter green for the leaves, so yellow, starting with my lighter colour. The yellow and a little touch of the green. Nice acidy light green. There we are, look, nice light yellow. And I'm going to drag that just across these sunlit areas like this. using the flat of the knife just to feel them. Get the sunlight going through here and in the background. You could use more sponge. At this stage you can go backwards and forwards. Nothing to say you can't go and get the sponge again and put a bit more of this texturing in with the sponge if you want. In between. Right down through there. And you can be as detailed as you want. You can start to do little bits of leaf. Let's just start putting little bits of leaf in. It's brighter green. Better. And you'll soon get the hang of using the knives and how you can get these different effects with them. I hope. I'm just going to leave it at that, but we've got our dark showing through. Now I'm going to come to my final highlights. So I'm going to get some pure white and just catch a little bit of the water coming over in places here. Now, that looks a bit rough and ready, but that's very quick demo. You want to take a look at that now at a slight distance, and I think you'll get the idea of it. Remember that you can drag the waterfall as well. You can make this waterfall actually flow more. You can drag these colours out more if you want to. Get the feeling of water a bit more. Pick paint up if you want and drag it. Get the feeling of the water. So let's see what we've got there from a distance before we think about adding any more to it. But I said I would share it with you very kindly.
So I'm going to say
What to do is slip a frame over it. We'll do that in a moment properly, but that's what you get, and it's rather effective. In a matter of about 10 minutes. And there's our finished work. First for the water, and then the white and the turquoise, and we're finished with the white at the very end. Okay, so 3 colours for that foam. So very light pink, more white in that.
More white, okay.
You're making this light pink colour here, look.
Right, yeah.
It's just off white, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, well here we are then, the 3 of us with our proud little paintings. We've got 2 absent today because they're ill, but they can watch the video later. And this is the last of our series of these little lessons. The students are now going to carry on when they want, doing their own things, and I'll demonstrate individually for them. Or they'll just do their own work for the rest of the summer. Enjoy that?
Yes.
So let's choose some more dates, haven't we?
Yeah,
all right then.
That was brilliant. Thank you.